So Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul actually fought, and I don't think anyone even expected this fight to take place. It went about as everyone expected, with Jake Paul never really having much success and eventually getting stopped. And although I made a video explaining how Jake Paul could win, throughout the video I said there wasn't really a chance for him to pull it off. He moved around to avoid as much danger as possible whilst AJ stalked him and eventually finished him off. In this video I'll be talking about what's next for both boxers after this. AJ came into the fight looking lean and shredded whilst having a 30-pound advantage over Jake, and it was clear to most people that this fight was just a money grab and it was never going to be competitive. I understand that Jake is tough for being able to get in there and survive for 6 rounds, but this doesn't really do anything for either of their careers. I guess for AJ it could count as a warm-up fight for something bigger down the line, but Jake literally only gained a paycheck from this. He broke his jaw in 2 places and probably shortened his career from getting beaten up by a heavyweight former world champion for 6 rounds. The fight itself was pretty boring to watch, with Jake Paul basically running the whole fight to avoid Anthony Joshua. This is pretty much the only strategy that works here, because as soon as he stops moving and plants his feet, that's when AJ can unload on him and knock him out. Occasionally he would pot shot to try and catch AJ, but Jake is too small to be able to do any damage. He's really just a cruiserweight, and it showed because AJ was completely composed for most of the fight. The problem is Jake hasn't got the conditioning to be able to move around like this for a long time. His last few fights, his approach has been to be more flat-footed and look for big shots. Suddenly switching his style to box and move for the first time against AJ was never going to work. He moved so much that at one point he actually rolled his ankle pretty badly and lost the ability to move around as much. Eventually he got tired and resorted to other survival tactics like aggressively clinching and falling early to the floor before a knockdown could be called. All of this was just stalling the inevitable. In round 6, AJ found Jake posted up against the ropes and quickly sent a jab down to his body. Jake made no defensive effort to deal with the right hand because he was probably too tired with his lead hand low and got caught with a picture perfect right hand which seems to have broken his jaw in 2 places. People were saying that AJ was taking too long to get to work and wasn't boxing like they expected him to, but I think he had the right strategy in mind. He slowly applied pressure to Jake and noticed that there will be no point in looking for an early KO if Jake is moving it in survival mode from the get-go. It's very hard to find the KO on someone who isn't even willing to engage. He took his time and avoided any unnecessary danger whilst letting Jake move around to tire himself out. The problem with Jake's strategy is that no one can move around constantly in high gears for an entire fight. Usyk has the best footwork in heavyweight history, but even he doesn't do that. At times he will stay and plant his feet whilst using his head movement to allow for his feet to rest. Jake doesn't have the same defensive tools and has to rely on his feet at all times. Credit to Jake because there were moments where he was slipping and ducking to avoid shots, but these were rare moments. Eventually Jake rolled his ankle from moving around so much and started slowing down after the 4th round. He started diving to the floor or going for aggressive clinches at AJ's knees to try and slow down the fight, but nothing was really working anymore, and into the 6th round he found himself on the ropes with nowhere to go. If Jake stood his ground more, AJ probably would have been able to get him out within the first 2 rounds because he would have been there to hit, but it's clear that Jake never showed up to try and win. He wanted to go as far as he could so that he could say he was tough for surviving. As much as I respect Jake for getting in there, what was the point? He made a lot of money, but this fight does nothing for his career. This fight was a commercial fight and wasn't a sporting one. Nobody tuned in because they thought it would be competitive. They watched because they thought Jake would get knocked out. With the injuries from this fight, he'll be lucky if he's able to get back into the ring 6 months from now. I understand that he wants to make money and this was a big money fight, but he's in a position where he could challenge for a cruiserweight world title within the next 2 years. Every boxer on the planet wants a piece of Jake Paul because they know he's a big money fight. He proved that he could sell events at a high level and can at least prepare for serious competition. He definitely isn't really an influencer boxer anymore and probably beats every influencer boxer on the planet. As far as elite boxers go, he can't beat anyone at world level. That being said, he can still try to push for the top because he can be strategically moved. This means keeping him at cruiserweight where he isn't too small for the weight class and carefully selecting his opponents. He could actually beat a lot of cruiserweights that have big names but limited mobility. There's plenty of high level boxers who plant their feet and are there to get hit. I would say if he's able to carefully put together a winning streak against a few credible cruiserweights and maybe even some light heavyweights that get greedy, he could find himself challenging for a world title in a few years. The best case scenario for him would be to be able to fight for a vacant title against another cruiserweight who isn't world level. We've seen this happen before. I think it's probably the only way Jake Paul ever wins a world title. The important thing is Jake needs to stop chasing dangerous fights. This fight with AJ probably made him some good money, but it's clear that he tried to chase respect from boxing fans, but all it's done for him is given him an embarrassing loss. More people have been making memes and clowning him for losing than actually giving respect for getting in there with one of the best in the world. As much as it's annoying for the fans, he needs to focus on what's good for his own career, which means avoiding these highly dangerous fights and chasing fights with guys he can actually beat. Jake doesn't magically need to become a great boxer, he just needs to make great moves. Even though AJ won this fight, things are a lot more different for him. He's no longer at the level that he used to be, and it's a long road for him to become a champion again. The heavyweight division knows his weaknesses, and his durability is definitely questionable. At this point, rather than taking senseless damage to try and become a champion again, he should secure his wealth by taking 1 or 2 more big money fights before retiring. He's already done plenty in the sport, and he's got enough left to chase the fights that the boxing community wants to see. He doesn't need to chase titles anymore because he's bigger than the titles. People are going to watch his fights for him. The best fight for him now is a domestic showdown with fellow Brit Tyson Fury. This is the perfect time for both of them since they're both at the end of their careers and people still want to see them fight. It seems this is AJ's plan because after beating Jake Paul, he called out Tyson Fury. Fury announced his retirement from boxing earlier this year in January, but I think this fight is just too tempting to turn down. He still trains, so it's clear that he still has the itch to box, and this may be what he needs to come back one last time. The only other fight I can think of for AJ that's as big as this would be the Deontay Wilder fight. Originally, the plan was for AJ to go over to America with his titles to challenge Wilder, but Andy Ruiz ruined those plans by stopping AJ to become the first Mexican heavyweight champion in the world. As of right now, Deontay Wilder is well past his best form from his recent losses, and it's clear that he's also at the end of his career, but he's still a pay-per-view star and sells out arenas. He's announced that he's accepted a call out from Alexander Usyk in December, so it's clear that he's still ready to compete, so we may see an AJ Wilder fight in 2026. Let me know what you guys think is next for Jake Paul and AJ, and do you want to see more fights like this between influencers and elite boxers?